Hello and welcome again to The Cycle Show. We're back in our London Bike Cafe, but we're reporting from all over the UK this week, and we're with some of the biggest names in the sport, both past and present. Tour de France winner Bradley Wiggins talks to us at the first Ride with Brad event in Lancashire. We tell you all you need to know about the Ride to Work scheme, and is this the most unusual bike in Britain? We'll explain all. Plus, Anna Glowinski competes in her first World Championship on a fold-up bike. But before all that, I promised you one of the biggest names in the sport, and they don't come much bigger than the man who once won the Triple Crown of cycling in the 1 year he won the Giro, the Tour and the World Champs. It's Stephen Roche. Stephen, thank you for joining us. Great to see you here. The first thing, I suppose, is happy anniversary. 25 years since you won all of that in 1987. People will be wondering what you're up to now.
Well, definitely when you say 25 years, it's amazing how fast those 25 years have gone. I just hope the next 25 years doesn't go as quick, you know. Yeah. But I've been very busy since then. You know, first of all, setting up my, when I finished my career in '93, I set up my cycling holidays in Mallorca. And they've been going on for the last 18 years now, successfully. And I do a lot of work now with Hot Chili, where we organise London, Paris, Alpine Challenge, which is next week actually in the Alps in Annecy. And a new event we organise now called the Cape Ruler in Cape Town in March. So basically sportifs, and but with a difference, and I'm very much involved in them. And then I have kind of my Eurosport work for Tour de France and the odd thing, plus Skoda, work for Skoda as an ambassador for Skoda France on Tour de France. So I'm trying to very kind of diversified jobs to just stop me cycling. Yeah, and all still obviously built around the sport. And I imagine a lot of your time is also spent with following your son Nico, doing really, really well in the Vuelta. He's top 10 at the moment, isn't he? Yeah, it's difficult following him because Nicholas has got a name for himself now. So I like Nicholas getting all the limelight for what he's done himself, not for what his old man has done. And when I'm around, it's the son of Stephen Roche. When I'm not around, it's Nicholas Roche. So I prefer leaving it that way and trying to be on the sideline or be on the phone if he needs me, and maybe I try to encourage him or maybe kind of advise him on different things, strategy for time trials, for example, or whatever. So I follow him from a distance, but still very, very closely. Yeah, I'm sure you've been following the Vuelta as a whole, though. It looks like it's going to come down to Contador Froome, which many people predicted at the start. Who would you fancy out of those two to win it? Yeah, it's going to be very complicated because, like, Froome has a Tour in his legs, and he wants to win the Tour of Spain, of course. He wanted to win the Tour de France also, but Wiggins was there ahead of him. But I think Contador is coming into it fresh after being out of action for a while. So the first week, of course, is going to be stronger, which we can see at the moment he is very strong. He will rival with Froome in the time trial next Wednesday, I think. But the final week, there are 5 mountaintop finishes. Will he still be fresh in the final week, or will he kind of taper off, as sometimes you do when you come back after a long layoff? You kind of go very good earlier on, you taper off then. So it's going to be a very, very interesting final week. But Rodriguez is still there, Valverde is still there. So it's not a done deal yet. The other big news in cycling, obviously, in the last week, which we can't ignore, is the Lance Armstrong situation. What do you think the UCI needs to do now, and how quickly do you think everybody can move on from this? Well, it's very difficult to give an opinion on it, because if you say it's great news, you're going to get kind of stones thrown at you. If you say it's bad news, you get stones thrown at you from a different direction. So I think my own opinion is that, well, you know, this is going to be the end of the Lance Armstrong affair, and we can go on from this now. I'd say yes, it's great, but unfortunately I think it's going to get, you know, it's on the beginning of a new affair, because what was happened last year maybe we can kind of undo, but what's been done like 10 years, 20 years ago, it's impossible to undo, I think. And I would just prefer to see the whole thing, everybody coming out of the whole thing and saying, okay, we've all grown up with this, we've learned so much from it. Cycling is on a different podium today. We're going forward, and the doping controls are more strict, and the sport is much cleaner than it's ever been. Let's go on from this now, let's go forward. Let's bury the Armstrong case and get on with it. Well, the Armstrong era is past, Stephen. You were in an era even further back than that. 25 years, as we said, since that incredible year in 1987. What now are your abiding memories of that time? Well, you know, looking back on those years, like when I wrote my book last year, Born to Ride, when I was asked to write the book, I thought, well, what am I going to write about? In fact, when I started writing the book, I realised there was an awful lot in there to write about, and it was very emotional, revisiting all the potholes of my early days, but also the '87, my victories, the Giro, the Tour and the Worlds, and other races that I didn't win, but revisiting all those potholes, as I call them, it was very emotional. And I mean, looking back on the Giro, like with Vicentini, the '87 Giro will always be remembered by the the controversy between myself and Vizzitini being leader, not leader, the Italian public going against me, but me coming out on top at the end. The Tour de France will be remembered for my fight with Delgado, and of course the yellow jersey changing shoulders 8 times during the Tour. My final battle on La Plagne with Delgado, to come back to within 4 seconds of him at the finish and collapsing, of course, at the end, and Liggett's words, "Is it a roach?" and everything else, you know. So, and then of course the World Champ, just going over there to try and ride for Sean, to try and get Sean a medal, and riding so hard and so well, and coming out and winning it, the World Champions myself. So I mean, you can talk about it very quickly, but it, you know, it's very deep. And when I was writing the book, you know, myself and with Pete Cousins, we went into a lot of detail, and it was good to go back and revisit it, because at home I have no medals, I have no jerseys, no photographs hanging on the walls, because I don't live in the past, I go forward. And from writing the book, I was saying, well, okay, well, my career was a lot in there, and I did achieve a lot. So probably even now, 25 years on, it's only now I realise how big the achievement was of winning the Giro Tour and the Worlds in the same year. It's
fascinating stuff, Stephen. Thanks. We'll be back with you in just a minute. But now we've been running a series recently about commuting, and we touched on the fact that a new government initiative called the Cycle to Work scheme helps you to pay for a new bike. And earlier this week, I caught up with a couple of budding new commuters to talk them through how the system works. Belfast is a pretty cycle-friendly city with miles and miles of riverside paths and more cycle paths on the main roads now as well. And in recent weeks, the Bradley boost has been very much in evidence, with more people taking to commuting on 2 wheels with or without sideburns. And of course, if there's the chance of getting somebody else to help pay for it, well, that goes down pretty well here too. So how does the Cycle to Work scheme actually work? Well, it's effectively a tax-free loan with an option to buy the equipment at fair market value at the end of a 12-month period. That's typically a 5% one-off payment, with your overall savings on a bike normally averaging out at 30 to 40% on what you would normally pay in the shops. Any firm can participate in the scheme, and any employee receiving salary through PAYE can take advantage. Each month, your contribution to the cost of the equipment comes out of your gross salary, hence the savings, and it's interest-free as well. Remember, you may need safety gear such as helmets and lights. These too can be included in your purchase. One other key point, the limit is £1,000. Different people have different ideas about how to spend it. Most things cycling related are eligible.
I want something that's quite comfortable. I think I've got about £1,000 to spend, but within that budget I've also got to buy my equipment and clothing, etc.
Okay, not a problem. You're probably best looking at the city stroke hybrid bike, and they start in around, for a very basic one, in around £274 and up to £750. But I mean, we can work with the budget to suit everything you need to fit in all your accessories as well.
I'm after a mountain bike. Budget's up to about £1,000. I'm going to be using it for bit on the road, but I want to get on the trails as well. So, what have you got?
Obviously, the cheaper the bike, the heavier it gets, and the more expensive the bike, the lighter it gets. Really, what you should be looking out for is a mountain bike with good front suspension and also hydraulic brakes. What we have lined up here for you, you're moving from a commuter right up until a full-bred cross-country racing bike.
Well, my budget's £1,000, so I want to spend up and around that. So let's go for a test drive on these two behind me, the 800 and £1,000 bike.
So guys, you had a browse through the massive selection over there in the shop. You've selected 2 each. Why did you go for the 2 mountain bikes you picked, Chris?
Well, both of them were within budget, so that was the first thing. I took a bit of advice from the guys in the shop, so they now get them out and have a wee road test at them.
And Sharon, you're obviously getting more than just bikes. You've decided you need all the kit for commuting as well. Are you happy with how you're dressed?
Oh yeah, very much so. Really comfortable and love the bright colours as well. I'd feel very safe wearing this going to work.
Great. Well, you've both got 2. And you're only allowed 1. So let's go and test them. Okay guys, the review is over. It's decision time now. Chris, which one have you gone for?
I think I'm going to go for the £1,000 bike. Both really lovely bikes. but the £1,000 one just had a few more toys on it, which I preferred. Like you could lock the suspension from the handlebars. Also felt a bit smoother through the gears. So I think for an extra £200, we're going to go for it.
It's like most boys, you like your toys.
Oh yes, definitely.
And Sharon, for you, two different prices again, £700 white bike or a £450 grey bike. Which did you go for?
I'm going for the cheaper one actually. I think for what I would need it for, I think £450 would be perfect. An extra £250 on the white bike, I don't think it's really worth it. It's slightly more comfortable, but that's it. But the other one was a smoother ride.
And if your bike is £450, that allows you another £550 to spend on accessories, which all ladies love.
Absolutely, lots of jackets, lots of cycling bottoms, perfect.
Great, well that's the easy part. Now the difficult part, you got to go and pay for it.
Chris, there's your quote first of all. It's for $999. If you want to pass that on to your finance department, we'll get the ball rolling there. As soon as they send me a purchase order, I'll get the bike released and then we'll invoice out.
Super.
Sharon, I have your quote here. Bike and accessories coming in at £767.93. So if you can pass that on to your finance department too.
So I'm not cycling home tonight?
Not
then?
tonight, no. Bit of paperwork to go through first.
Thank you very
Folks,
much.
thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Cheers now. Bye.
Usually the paperwork takes about 2 weeks to go through, depending on your firm and the shop you use. But come on, you're getting it all nearly half price. Stephen, it's a great scheme and something you're actually very familiar with, aren't you?
Yeah, my brother actually is running his own scheme in Ireland, and bike to work scheme, and doing very well out of it. But I mean, it's amazing the number of people actually on bikes now. The people kind of start off looking at it as being a kind of a cheap way of getting a bike. It costs them like 40% cheaper than actually going out and buying it themselves. It's actually more economical because fuel-wise, petrol-wise, going to work, no traffic problems. You can ride on the road into work. Then you get involved then and you say, okay, this kind of cycle thing is not bad. Let's go out and buy some Lycra and get involved in a club. And they're getting involved in clubs, they're getting more and more into it. And they find themselves then going out and riding these sportive events every weekend. And you find now every weekend in UK and Ireland, there's kind of every corner of the island you get sportives. You get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people taking part, so it's amazing. Yeah.
Do you find a big difference? You obviously live in the south of France at the moment. Every time you come back to the UK or Ireland, do you find there are more people out on bikes again and the profile is that little bit higher?
It's amazing. You used to see people here before on bikes, okay, but now you're stepping out the footpath, you got to watch out that not getting run over by a bus, by cars, and also by push bikes. You stop at traffic lights and all of a sudden you're swamped by cyclists. But also years ago you used to see people going into work in trousers with kind of clips around their trousers so the trousers doesn't get caught in the chain ring. Now people are going into work in Lycra and being happy with it. But before, people riding bikes wouldn't dream of going to work in Lycra. That wasn't done, Yeah. So now you get all kinds of people kind of going into work on the bikes, and it's great to see it.
More from Stephen Roach again in part 2. That's it though for now for part 1. We'll also be hearing in part 2 from one of Stephen Roach's heirs, the current Tour de France champion, Bradley Wiggins. Welcome back to the Cycle Show. Stephen Roach is with us, and so too now one part of one of cycling's greatest family dynasties, the mountain bike trio. The Athertons are G, Dan and Rachel, and Dan Atherton is with us here in the cafe. Good to see you, Dan. We're going to be seeing a lot more of you, obviously. Just tell everybody what you've been up to.
Been pretty flat out, to be honest. Started racing this new discipline called Enduro, which seems to be kind of the new thing in mountain biking, and also been working quite closely with Clay Porter and Red Bull to bring out a new series called 4x3, which is out on the 11th of September, and yeah, it should be an exciting thing for the public.
What is it like working so closely with family and what I suppose is your hobby but also your business?
Yeah, I'm sure as you guys know, it's cool having your family around you all the time, and I think athletes get so focused on what they're doing that it's easy to lose track of what life's really about, and having your brother and your sister with you traveling constantly definitely reminds you kind of the cold face of reality. You wake up in the morning and you're arguing about who's doing the dishes, who's kind of going in the toilet first, so it definitely keeps you real, but there's times when you want to break and you want to kind of get out on your own, and that's what this year's been cool, travelling by myself and having a little bit of a break from them.
It's something you'll know all about. Stephen, the Roaches are another great family dynasty, aren't there? There's so many of you involved at the very top level.
Neil Martin is my brother-in-law. He beat me in my first international schoolboy event when I was 16. He married my sister. They had a son, Daniel. Daniel is now kind of riding with Garmin team, winner of a stage in the Tour of Spain last year. Lawrence, my brother, he's only the 6th Irish guy to have ridden and completed the Tour de France. So we all get around the table. We have a very different opinion as to who's who and what's what in the cycling of today.
How competitive are the Athertons when you all get together? You're the eldest, Dan. Do you feel that you've got to fly the flag and be better than younger brother and younger sister?
Yeah, they definitely keep me on my toes, But I think it's amazing having G there and having Rach there. They're constantly pushing you. So I'm sure Stephen knows when you have a down day and you don't feel like going out training. They're on an up day, so they're like kind of spurring you on, and you get motivation from each other. So it definitely keeps you alive and keeps you rolling. And I'm sure that's kind of why we are where we are.
You all live in Wales. Just tell us as well about the amazing steps you've taken to make sure that you can train fairly close to home.
Yeah, well, we just bought this new place and kind of didn't want to split up, so we bought an old farm, and I've kind of got one house, they've got the other house, and it was perfect, everything we needed, but didn't really have kind of a field and a location for training. So we went round to the local farmer and we said, look, we'll give you a bit of money to rent the field. And so he was all for it, let us take the diggers in there and totally destroy it, and came in a few weeks later and took one look at it and he was like, well, fair play, you've done more than I thought you would. But he's a sound old boy, and he's been golden.
Yeah, he's been very, very understanding. Another great cycling family dynasty around at the moment, of course, are the Wigginses, Bradley and Kath. And earlier in the week, we caught up with the Mod father himself up at home in Lancashire. Whether he likes it or not, this summer's heroics cast Bradley Wiggins firmly into the limelight. The reluctant hero was back in his home county of Lancashire for the launch of his new foundation and the inaugural Ride with Brad Sportive.
I think all of us were a bit overwhelmed by just how not only the Tour de France but how the Olympics was taken by the public. It's fantastic for the sport, and everything's couldn't have been better for obviously launching my foundation and trying to raise money for that.
There was a number of different sportives on this weekend, but obviously with the start of the foundation, we thought we'd give this one a go, and really glad we did. It's really well organised. There's lots of us, and yeah, so far so good.
If he overtakes me, I'm going to do my level best to hang on to his wheel in the hope that somebody will take a photograph at some stage.
Well, it's really exciting, really, to just have the chance to cycle with him and do the same route he's going to do, and be able to sort of do the routes he does to train for the Tour de France and the Olympics. Yeah.
British cycling, he's just back on the map big time now, so I think there's going to be a lot more of it, more clubs, more events, and more things like this happening, hopefully.
It was end of November or the first week in December. Brad had got in touch and said, I've got a little bit of an idea, can we meet up? So we went and had a little bit of a bite to eat, and yeah, it was in a pub, but we weren't actually knocking the beers back because both of us were driving, so it was. And then just a general chit chat and catch up with Brad, and then he just said he's got this idea of starting his own foundation.
Brad likes, he doesn't like seeing people who want to do it not being able to do it, for lack of funding or whatever it may be. With myself this year, it looked like I was going to go back to France, and it kind of fell through last minute, and I basically could get a place on the team, but there wasn't any money around for me or anything, and Brad was straight there and said, you can't, without the help of the foundation, I wouldn't have been able to race this year.
Having won the Tour in the Olympics, it makes, hopefully helps the profile of it build a bit more, and raise more money, and eventually we're helping clubs, maybe teams, and just on sport as a whole, really. It's not just cycling specific. So it started as a really simple thing, really, and now it's just growing, and we don't know really where it's going to go.
The number of spectators that have come out just to cheer on and watch in such remote places was just absolutely amazing. Cycling is booming big time now, and then when we got to the finish, people were saying, wow, that was hard, but I really enjoyed it.
This is the first time I've done 100, previously done some 60 milers. So I thought, since Bradley was here, I thought I'll step up to 100. And I beat him by a minute, get that on the video.
I flew to the Tour de France last month and watched it last week. and met Bradley and some members of Team Sky and found out about this event.
It was brilliant. Hard work, but brilliant.
This is one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Absolutely.
Stephen, Bradley is one of your heirs, I suppose, being the current Tour de France champion. You'll be well aware of the kind of pressures, I suppose, that come with trying to put something back into the sport. It's great to see him doing that, isn't it?
Well, it is. Like, he's not even finished his career yet. Like, I started my cycling holidays after my career to put something back into cycling, but Bradley has a very, very complicated and full agenda, so I don't know where he's going to find the time to put time into this new venture. But I mean, it's great because at the moment his profile is very high, and of course kids are looking up to him. So it's if you wanted to bring sponsors in and everything else, of course now is the time. So very good initiative. I wish him all the success of it. Like, it's a very good initiative, and there's loads of academies out there for kids, but it's not an academy for everybody. So it's nice that Bradley, being the man he is today, and the power he has to bring people on board with him to help him, I think it's a great move.
That's also something that you guys do, Dan, visiting schools and things like that. I mean, what sort of response do you get when you go around to the kids?
Yeah, I think it's really important, you know, being a professional athlete, and you know, it's something that I'm sure Bradley's taken on and had a lot of kind of advice from people to put back into the sport. And you know, whenever you go to a school or anything, you know, kids just want an autograph, or they just want something, you know, to give them a little bit of something to talk about with their mates, you know. So this thing that Bradley's doing is pretty stunning, you know, like all around that Manchester area, and you know, there's a lot of talent, I guess, with British cycling coming through, and yeah, it's cool for him to be putting back in like that.
Yeah. Kids are great because they're just so honest. What is the most frequent question you get asked when you go to the schools?
Can I have a go on your bike, mate? I guess that would be the one.
Well, another thing that Bradley touched on last week was women's cycling and what he perceives as a lack of support and investment in the sport.
Long term, I'm really keen on having a professional women's racing team, because I don't think no one's ever done that yet, and I think they're at a stage now where they really deserve that. We've got such quality in the women's side of things, and there's so little funding and money and support for them, and I'd love to have a professional women's racing team with, obviously, you know, we've got some of the best women in the country now, you know, so there's no reason why the women's side of things shouldn't be on a par with the men, or certainly better than it is, because it's pretty poor, really. Certainly the funding of it and how much they get paid in relation to what they achieve. So I think it's, and you know, the women's race at the Olympics is probably one of the most exciting races, the road race, so there's no excuse that it's not as exciting as the men's. So I think something has to change, certainly, yeah.
Well, those are the thoughts then of one of Britain's all-time greats on the state of women's cycling. Earlier on I spoke to Natalie Kresick and put Bradley's thoughts to her. Here was her response.
As a female cyclist, it's really exciting to hear that. It feels like what it needs is someone, such a high-profile rider as Bradley Wiggins, to take a risk and get behind women's cycling. And hopefully, if people see that, then they'll see that it is a really positive thing to get involved in. There's like so much going on in women's cycling, and it is such a growing sport and a growing market, and I feel like it could be really positive.
Dan, I imagine you have some thoughts on that, given that your sister Rachel is part of your team.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, for women, it's really important to have that race background, and you know, from Rachel's point of view, she's one of the strongest kind of racers that I know. She can switch it on mentally better than any of the guys, so such a strong racer, and I'm sure there's a lot of other women out there just like that wanting to prove themselves.
Yeah, you'd agree with that, Stephen, isn't it? It's a level that's improving all the time, and obviously we saw in the Olympics that the women's road race was probably far more exciting than the men's.
Bradley going along making a team was great, but at the same time it's making a team is not enough, really. You really want television to come along and film the events, because if the events are filmed, sponsors will come on board. So it's a very, very hard task ahead, but I definitely believe that women's cycling has its place in the society of cycling today. And I mean, we have seen some incredible racing and fighting amongst the ladies the last couple of years in different tours and different world championships. And I mean, it's sometimes men's cycling can become a bit dull, maybe, whereas definitely in girls cycling there's a lot of action.
Yeah. Well, speaking of potential new cycling teams, we've got a very unusual cycle team of the week for you this week. We've got two guys who were watching the Tour of Britain and decided that they would build a bike. So far, so normal, except they decided they'd build their bike completely out of wood.
Here we go! Go on!
Cycle enthusiasts James Tully and Michael Thompson have been great friends for over 20 years. While watching the Tour of Britain race by Michael's house in September of 2010, Michael, a joiner by trade, made a small wager with James. That, in the heat of the moment, seemed perfectly sensible.
I kind of mentioned once to James that I thought that I could build a 100% wooden bicycle. To which he laughed and he said, if you build it, I'll ride it.
The trouble is, it might catch fire.
What? Go on, Bradley! Go on! Where's we go? There he is.
And as the pack whizzed by at incredible speed, their odd ambition really started to grow.
I thought that if we're going to build one, then we may as well do a land speed record and prove it on a worldwide level.
20 what?
Come on.
Out?
37.6.
37.6. Hoopla! Come along, everyone. Push, in other words.
At one point, I couldn't do anything on the project because I was just being constantly telephoned and hounded by the media.
Let me just let you know that the saddle...
Yes. Take the strainer. Come out the corner. Keep going round. Keep going. Keep going.
It's not riding a wardrobe up the road.
And the Splinter Bike team, Michael and James, are with me now. Michael, the first thing I want to pick up on is surely you didn't see these bikes going past in the Tour of Britain and instantly know that you could build a wooden bike.
Well, actually, we did. Yeah, it's they came past September the 16th, I think, 2010, and we stood there in awe, obviously, and I just thought maybe it is possible to build a 100% wooden bicycle.
Components and everything.
Everything, and I suggested to James that I could do it, and his response was,
if you can build it, I'll ride it.
How terrifying is that prospect?
At the beginning, before I'd got on it, when I could see what it looked like, but hadn't been on it, I was very daunted because it has no brakes. It's wood against wood, there's a sort of distinct fire possibility, etc. And it's very heavy. And I just didn't know how I was going to keep it upright and how I was going to stop it if necessary. Once I got on it and got used to it, I feel a lot more confident now. I'm confident enough to ride it as fast as I could.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about was the glue, because the glue doesn't just hold the bike together, it actually, that's what you make the tyres out of, which is genius. And again, that is because you've decided the rules are only wood and glue, so you're kind of setting the agenda as you go, Michael.
yeah, we are, because we're the first to do it, but we've made the rules as simple as possible. The rules are you can use wood and glues, no bolts or screws. Okay, so those are the rules. So if you can't get your head around that, then you shouldn't be attempting it.
It certainly sounds like it will be fun, and I wish you all the very best of luck, and thank you very much for coming in to tell us all about it. That's it for part 2. Join us again in part 3, where we'll be sending Anna Glowinski on a freestyle mountain bike crash course.
Welcome back. I'm joined by Sam Pilgrim, legend of freeride mountain biking. This guy throws himself off mountains, does tricks, does massive jumps. Let's take a look at Sam in action.
Yeah!
That was amazing. That was really good. So is there anything that you think you can teach me?
Well, can you do a bunny hop?
Yeah, I can do a bunny hop.
So let me see that, and then if it looks good, I want to try and teach you a 180 hop.
All right, let's go.
So let's see it.
Pressure's on. Okay.
Yeah, pretty good for a girl. But here's the 180 then. So you gotta turn into it, do the hop, turn out. Simple as that.
That's not an explanation.
Why no, I was gonna explain. So when you're coming into it, you wanna like load up for the hop like you would as if you're going straight, you know?
Yeah.
But you want to turn into it before, so that's getting
I'd
getting your body moving, you know.
Okay.
And then as you like spring off, then you want to turn a bit and use your weight as if you were like kicking off with both legs on a swing or something, and then swing the bike around to the direction that you wish to spin.
Okay.
And then firstly just try and land backwards and don't worry about spinning the rest of it out. Just, you know, land backwards and roll a little bit and take your feet off.
Okay.
Because the
so
spinning
it's really
out...
in my legs and shoulders.
Yeah,
and
so...
my eyes, am I looking around?
Well,
or?
no, because you don't really need to look around because you're more looking at the floor because you just want to, like, stay in the same sort of place when you land, you know? Mm-hmm. So just nice and slow.
Okay.
And see what happens.
I'll go that way.
Okay. Well, pretty good, but the more you turn into it, that'll get your... But you didn't really turn into it, you just started to turn when you took off. So turn into it more, and that'll get you spinning, you know?
Oh!
I'd say that was almost it. I think you can do it. There you go. Get some grip.
Get some grip.
On the wettest
That's another
part
little
of the
trick
playground.
that he's just taught me.
Almost. I could say that was like a 150. So, you know, bit more practice and you could have it.
All right, I think I'm happy with the 150.
Yeah, I'd be happy for a first ever try of that. That was pretty good.
Thanks for that, Anna. Stephen, whenever you're starting out in cycling, there just weren't that range of disciplines, I imagine. Do you think if you were having your time again, you might end up in something different, or was it always going to be road racing?
I think it was always going to be road racing because I enjoyed the speed side of things. But even though there wasn't kind of a freestyle system available when we were starting off, we used to go off on youth hostling with the friends, and we get down to the fish and chip shop at night time and ride back in the dark and turn the lights off, and that was our kind of freestyle riding. But we used to ride like in the mountains, on the tracks, on normal road bikes, on fixed wheels, and that was our skills testing.
Where you have ended up, Dan, as a fairly specialist discipline, but how did it all start for you?
Yeah, I guess like Stephen said, you know, it was all about having fun on your bike, and for me it was just about going down to the local woods and riding my bike around and jumping off stuff and hitting turns fast, and yeah, it just progressed from there. Started racing BMX and then moved along to mountain bike, so yeah, just all about having fun on your bike.
Yeah. I'd love to talk to you both about the extremes, the extreme end of your sport. I mean, Dan ended up with a broken vertebra in his neck, you ended up incapable of movement on La Plana. What is it, do you think, you have that you can push yourself to almost the point of collapse?
Just to win, you know, it's you don't push yourself to the extreme and say, I want to go to the limit, I'm going to fall off a coma at the end. You see the white line up there and you see another guy beating you and you want to get there before him. So it's just some people can go to that limit, I think. Nobody tries to get there, you just get there. Yeah. But it's different with some people, like they can kind of back off when they get to a certain limit, and some guy just have no limits. And
that must have been a scary moment.
It was, yeah. You're lying on the ground and you're totally exhausted, and everyone's taking photographs and wants to know what happened, and you just have no oxygen there. And it was more on Friday when the doctor says to me, Stephen, move your legs in, the cars are coming very close. And I realised that I couldn't even move any of my limbs. So the doctor said, okay, Stephen, if you can hear me, just blink your eyes. So we were communicating for the first 5 minutes just by me blinking my eyes, the yes and for no. But I didn't kind of purposely try putting myself in that condition, you know. It was basically I wanted to get time back on Delgado because I knew that once the stopwatch stopped, that was time lost for the next day.
Whenever you broke the vertebra in your neck, Dan, that must have been frightening.
Yeah, it was one of the most toughest parts of my career, you know, and thankfully I didn't actually know I'd broken my neck when I had the crash, you know. I knew that it felt limp, and I held onto it tight and I lowered myself to the floor, and you know, I didn't know the huge road that was laid ahead of me at that point to come back from recovery. And you know, almost coming back from recovery was kind of the easy part. It's going that small step from when you're back on the bike racing competitively to getting back to the top, and it's a small step, but it's almost the biggest step.
Stephen, thank you very much for joining us, and the very best of luck with all your ventures in the future. It's been great having you here in the show. Dan, you're going to stick around. We're going to talk a lot more about mountain biking whenever we come back. Now, trying to do a roach and becoming a world champion is a dream for many, and it's just the same for our Anna. So we decided we'd send her off to the Brompton Bike World Championships, and you can see that after the break. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back to the Cycle Show. Our Anna is always up for an unusual challenge, so last week we sent her along to the Brompton Bike World Championships to see if she could go for global glory.
I'm here in the beautiful grounds of Blenheim Palace. It's situated in Woodstock, just 8 miles from Oxford. I'm one of 750 riders taking part in the Brompton World Championship. The race attracts a variety of riders and a strict dress code is enforced. Jackets, ties, collars. No lycra is allowed.
This is the 5th time, and the first time I was absolutely bowled over. I couldn't believe all these people with all the bikes lined up. And seeing all these people enjoying themselves in the carnival atmosphere then was terrific. And as I say, it's not exactly déjà vu, because each year is fresh and this has changed and there are more people. And of course, I'm jolly proud. Our Spanish dealer started it off in Barcelona with a quick whiz around the streets there, which is quite a feat of organisation. But this has now become the sort of main one. He came up with the idea and made people dress in a sort of very British way in Barcelona, which I suppose hit a chord there, and we've copied it. It is in a way utterly absurd. It makes the Brompton look as if it's only to be used by people in city outfit. But that's the tradition now. I'm afraid it's going to stay like that.
As you can see, all vintage, all retro. I like second-hand gear. Got the bow tie off eBay, the jacket too. I've got a little cycling vest underneath. It's going to be very hot today, but that's just the way it goes.
I love the purple color, so I bought, of course, in this color. And that's the day as well I can wear all the pink or purple color.
I'm from Malaysia. I really want to participate at least once in my lifetime, you know. This is my old boy style.
I've got the great number, the number 1, because I registered at midnight. The first day we had to register. I'm really glad about that.
So we come from Romania. Last year we actually met at a meeting.
And this is our second year here. We celebrated by proposing her yesterday, so...
And I said yes.
So I've spent hours practicing folding and unfolding my bike, but the real challenge of the day is getting my bow tie done up. Can you help?
I can, no problem. Here we go. Right. The art of doing a good bow tie is to get your fingers in the bows there and just tighten up and level it up. Make sure it's nice and square, not too tight, just like my dad taught me. There we go.
So I'm looking the part, now to the race. 2 laps of a 6.5 kilometre course, and the practice has paid off as I've managed to unfold my bike in just 28 seconds. And then it was time to race, where apparently it's all about having fun. Amazing as usual. I gave it everything, and for the first cycle show feature I've not actually crashed. That was pretty cool. I'm not sure I really had the right end of the stick though. I was killing myself and everyone else was just in their fancy dress, pootling around the park, having a nice time.
Excruciating, but fun. Not for the faint-hearted.
I'm going along slower than most people, and like every time, oh yeah, Bumblebee, keep going, and like it just gives you that extra bit more to go. It's like a big family.
I'm ready for another lap. Let me have a drink of water and I'll go round again.
It's the only World Championship I'm ever going to compete in anyway.
Well, that was a rather quintessential British experience. I wonder what my next one will be.
And Anna and Sam Pilgrim have joined us now in the cafe. Anna, that looked like a whole lot of fun. You don't obviously stick to the normal sports nutrition rules, judging by that scone.
Scone.
It's scone.
It was quite a unique event, actually, and everything was tweed and British, and I was quite inspired to try the scone with jam and cream.
You did pretty well.
Yeah, I got 221st out of 900, so not that I was counting. I was pretty stoked on that.
You are competitive though, so I'm sure you were counting. Well done.
Thanks.
Let's talk about mountain biking in general. I mean, what you do is very different to what Dan does, but presumably you all started off from the same place. I mean, that's a sport that just seems to keep dividing and growing all the time, Sam.
Yeah, obviously I started when I was smaller, just messing around on a bike, and then decided that jumping off curbs and doing wheelies was fun. And then, you know, you just go from there, few bricks and a bit of wood, jumping. And now I'm flying over really big gaps, and it's got a bit ridiculous, but I'm still alive and I'm loving it, so it's cool.
Speaking of gaps, you're going to have to tell us what happened to your teeth.
Oh, yeah. So, obviously, missing a front tooth. I really like it personally, but smashed my face into the floor. That obviously didn't go too well on the teeth, and lost both of them, well, in half. The one that's missing was like split open, and it wasn't very nice, so they pulled it out, and I decided to leave it like that.
Why?
Just because, like, not many people have a missing tooth. And it's not because, like, I had too many sweets, and they're clean, obviously. So it's like, it must have been for something, so I thought I'd leave it like that.
It puts your mere broken neck into perspective, Dan, doesn't it?
Exactly, a missing tooth.
Where do you think mountain biking is at the moment? We had Gary Fisher on the show a couple of weeks ago, a guy who basically invented the sport, and, you know, he's obviously still not an old guy, and yet how things have advanced in that time have been extraordinary. Where do you think it's at now, and where's it going?
I think you've only got to go up to a place like Llandegla in North Wales, and you instantly see, you know, how booming mountain biking is. And okay, it's not freestyle and it's not World Cup downhill mountain biking, but it is mountain biking, and, you know, that is where everybody starts, you know, grassroots, and it's exciting the next few years. We've had the Olympics, we've had success in the Tour de France, and it's definitely crossing over to mountain biking.
Sam, where do you train? I mean, obviously where you compete, you know, everything's different. Each week you go to a different venue with different challenges. How do you train for that?
Well, like, generally you do the same tricks at every event, but they're just over sort of different styles of obstacle. Obviously there's still going to be like dirt jumps, which is like a takeoff to a landing, but there might be different styles of that, like maybe off a drop or up onto something. And I have my own place to practice at home, which is like a set of jumps of like a softer landing to you know, like if you crash, it's not so bad. And I ride in skate parks, and you know, that for me, because it's concrete or whatever, is kind of good for learning to land on your pedals all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, you don't want to crash.
Yeah.
And I also like to ride a motorbike as well, like a motocross bike, because that's kind of for strength. So I don't like going to the gym or anything.
Yeah.
Just like to be doing fun stuff.
Well, surely one of the most interesting aspects of this week's show is going to be the Cycle Show Sprint Challenge, because we're going to take two off-road guys and stick them on stationary bikes. It's Dan versus Sam. So Keelan Phillips, a BMXer, still sits proudly on top of the Cycle Show Sprint Challenge leaderboard. Let's see what the mountain bikers can do about that. There's a great atmosphere here. Give me a little tingle, real competitive edge between these two. Both mountain bikers. Let's see how they get on the stationary bikes. Over to you, Jake.
Okay, Dan on the blue, Sam on the red. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go, 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 go! And now up there, coming up to speed. Here's 100 gone. The blue is in the lead. Keep sprinting, keep sprinting. We're 200 to go. Blue is still leading. Come on, red, it's halfway. Geo Riders as fast as you go with 200 to go. Cycle, cycle, cycle. It's 100 on the blue, 100 on the red, 50 on the blue. 25 is going to be the blue that takes the middle. Just behind.
Incredible. As predicted, the mountain bikers straight to the top of the board. Dan Atherton is our new current champion, and Sam, you're straight into second, relegating me to fourth, which I'm not very happy about. Congratulations to both of you. Remember, we want to hear from you guys at home. You can get in touch with us via Twitter and Facebook. Next week, we're looking ahead to the Tour of Britain. We'll see you then. Bye-bye. Well done. Congratulations.
Bundesliga football highlights will be here at 10 tonight with the best action from one of the toughest leagues in Europe. Next though, charting his incredible career so far, it's Lionel Messi, world's greatest player.